Yeah, so just before we begin, I would like to say a few words about our project to people who may not be familiar with us. So, so basically, who we are an international group of activists called pro-veganstvo, which, if translated into English, means about veganism. We are a volunteer-based educational project. We do online activism as of right now, which focuses on the root of the problem, which is the belief system that animals are lesser, that they are insignificant, and that they are objects for human use. So we focus on that rather than just symptoms. And now our guest is David. First of all, David, it's a great pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming, for joining us tonight.
Thank you
Tell
for
us
inviting
about
me.
your, and the first question I would like to ask you is, tell us about yourself and what kind of activism you've done over the years.
Yeah, well, I have been a plant-based person for about 15 years, and in the process of that, I understood that maybe what I thought veganism was not really veganism. So, mm, yeah, my process of realizing what veganism is led me to be very careful with with the messages that we send to the public, because I thought I was vegan just because I opposed cruelty, and I realized that that is welfarism later on. So yeah, then I joined AV because I never thought that any other organization represented what I wanted to do. Um, the other organizations were either intersectional or mm, obviously welfarist, like DXC, for example. And SAFE was never appealing to me. Like not even the vigils were appealing to me. I thought like, well, what is the point? Um, and also that the organization was intersectional, and I thought, well, that is not my approach to animal exploitation at all. Um, yeah, but then I realized also that the messages that the AV was sending were also welfarist messages about animal abuse and animal cruelty and violence, and they never got to the point uh, of veganism, which is not just the violence or the cruelty, but the use of animals for selfish purposes. Yeah, I think that's pretty much. I was an organizer for AV for years, and then I said, well, now this is not working for me, and there's so much misinformation in this organization, and I said, well, no, it's enough. Yeah, so that's basically my story with veganism. Is my sound okay?
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
And yeah, okay. So, yeah, and it really also kind of like resonates with me because I also was part of some organizations, including AV also, doing the street outreach and helping organizing some of the cubes and stuff. So yeah, that's like there is this like kind of common misconception that to be a welfarist we have like one has to talk about bigger cages, arguing for bigger cages or something like that. But it's not the only way welfarism shows up, because when we over-fixate on cruelty but not talking about the very belief, the supremacist belief that animals are lesser and they exist for humans, then it's still welfarism, because it's just talking about symptoms, cruelty, treatment, and stuff like that. So yeah. And my next question to you is something that we hear a lot especially from certain activists: efficiency versus dogmatism. Especially this is relevant from people who follow Tobias Linyard work and Melanie Joy. They talk about results, like show us results. Your dogmatism, like it doesn't matter, your like rules, as they say. So they focus on basically reducitarianism and vegetarianism, but it's not really veganism. But what's your response to this this argument?
I think the problem is that we have a lot of people who identify as vegans, but they don't understand what veganism means. And they have a different purpose from vegans. And their purpose is to reduce suffering. Their purpose is to lower the numbers of victims. Our purpose is to change the mindset behind those behaviors that create the victims. So they think and they claim that they have the same goal, but the goal that they have is completely different. So there's also I think that their belief that veganism is somehow some sort of virtue, and they think that, well, we are so virtuous that the rest of society will never understand what we already understand. That's a very dangerous mindset, because it promotes, well, what we can do now is just promote welfarism. Maybe someday in the future we can promote veganism, and then animal liberation will come about, which is like the new welfarist stance, which is, well, let's start with single issue campaigns, or let's start with a very soft approach, just so that we can get people on board with the rejection of cruelty, for example. And I think that's a completely different goal. And they don't realize that even the founders of veganism said, well, the purpose of having a very clear definition of veganism is that we don't have to deal with agencies of reaction, which means like reactionary welfarists, basically. But in the paper called In Search of Veganism 1, they talk about that. It's like the purpose of having a clear definition is that we don't have agencies of reaction anymore within all our lines or within the vegan society. So the idea was that everybody was on the same page, that we are going to promote veganism, and anything less than veganism will not lead to animal emancipation. That anything less than veganism was, in fact, counterproductive for the advancement of veganism. So that's what these people need to understand. Like, it's very urgent. It's very important that they understand, if you're not going to promote veganism, then don't call yourself vegan, because that's even what the founders of the movement, as early as 1949, were saying, well, we don't need that. We need people that are on board with what we are trying to create here, which is the stance, the promotion of the stance that humans have no right at all to exploit other animals. So that's the whole purpose of having a clear definition of veganism. And people who don't agree with that, well, they shouldn't call themselves vegans. They should say, well, I have a better idea, or whatever. It will be more clear for everybody. But the confusion that they create is so damaging, so harmful for the movement, that we are still trying to defend the movement, which is not what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to spread the idea that humans have no right to exploit other animals at all. So instead, we are trying to defend that idea from people who call themselves vegans, and that's a shame.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the issues is that they don't really realize is that by calling anyone a vegan, for example, people who follow like plant-based diet for health performance, or like sports performance, or environmental reasons, is they really like promote the very root, like they bolster the very root of the issue. They view animals as lesser still, because we would never talk about humans like that in their very movement. Like, imagine if we're talking about like anti-slavery of blacks, and we
I don't hear you anymore.
the and to get more people on board, they would start talking about like the economy now.
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, so if they like treat animals as lesser even in their own movement, and promote other ideas which put animals somewhere in the back, like let's talk about environment, they like bolster the very issue which veganism tries to solve, is that they are no lesser, that they are no objects, like regardless of environment or anything like that. But this is a very dangerous phenomenon, because in this very movement they are viewed as lesser still, even by so-called vegans, because it's a very dangerous idea that they are viewed as insignificant, as some other motivation, basically. So that's a very problematic. It's something that they really don't consider, I think.
Yeah,
And
that they are promoting what the stance that was before veganism. So veganism came about. Veganism was created to get rid of that stance that, well, maybe if we treat them better, or maybe if we use them without suffering, or maybe veganism is like the clear stance that, well, every commodity that we use should not uh, should not be derived, should not be produced uh, from animals. And the use of feathers, for example, which is kind of controversial. I don't know why, or well, I know why, because people don't know the definition of veganism, and they don't understand it, or they reject it. They say, well, that's dogmatic, because what they reject is suffering. They don't reject the the instrumentalization of animals. They don't reject the objectification of animals, which is the whole point of veganism. It's like, okay, if we are going to spread some sort of stance to emancipate animals, the stance should be that animals should not be even viewed as resources. If an animal die, humans shouldn't be thinking, well, what is this corpse good for? What use can we make of this? Just like we do with humans. Well, vastly, if we think of, we think of organs, maybe, but that's because, well, maybe we can just save ourselves with the donation of organs. And even that is controversial because some people don't want to donate, myself included. I don't know who is going to benefit from organs that might belong to me. So I reject the idea that they use the parts of my body to help who knows who. A person who might be a serial killer or just an animal exploiter who's going to live a lot longer just because they used my organs. But that's a different topic. The idea is to reject all use of animals, and people who call themselves vegans are not understanding or are rejecting even the idea of veganism, but they want to keep calling themselves vegans. And that's a problem for animals. That's a problem for the movement. That's a problem for, we are going back to the ideas that propelled, that encouraged people to create a different idea. So we are going back to the ideas, but with the label of veganism, which is a disaster for the founders of the movement. They try to stop it, and they try to deter. They try to avoid the this co-opting, the co-opting of the movement. And it happened, and it has become a very real problem that they don't want to address. Like people who are well known for supposedly promoting veganism, they have never promoted veganism, or they have promoted veganism, and on top of that, like some welfarist ideas, and kind of they make a mixture of two different stances, and they confuse people even more, and people are not even sure what veganism is, and everybody's talking about diets all the time and eating animals, and people think that, well, I don't eat meat is like the opposite of veganism, and all that confusion that they create with their hundreds of thousands of followers, and they even, I think that what annoys me most is is like seeing how they think of themselves as the huge promoters of an idea that they don't even understand. So I think that's a real problem that we have to deal as soon as possible. That we have to deal with as soon as possible. That we have to tackle. That we cannot allow them to keep spreading misinformation, because it's going back to welfarism, and the whole creation of veganism would be pointless if we allow them to
totally.
co-opt. If we allow them to co-opt the concept.
Yeah, and we have more than enough evidence, and it's just basically common sense that welfareism, it's making things worse, because many think that, well, maybe it's just some stepping stone basically towards veganism, but what it's doing the complete opposite. It's just setting things backwards, essentially. It's just now welfareism is like all the non-vegans, they are welfarists,
Yeah.
and we and the things for animals are worse, absolutely worse than ever, even though this movement exists for like 80 years. It's still like it's achieving nothing basically at this at this point. The way it promotes itself, it's just basically achieves pretty much nothing. We have a lot of people who call themselves vegan, but animals are exploited like more than ever, and few people understand like what this movement is about. So it's really like
Um,
dangerous for the victims, really.
yeah, and
So and
some of them. Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
yeah, I mean, it's I was just going into like the next kind of like question,
Yeah.
because many it like tracks from our points that we made now, that some of activists, they say that, well, but non-vegans are not interested in justice, right? They say they're just not interested in this,
Mhm.
and instead we should like try to push like plant-based diets, like for like health or like environment, whatever. What would you say to them?
Yeah, that's the problem, that they don't even agree with veganism, but they call themselves vegans. So they say, well, no, now people will never understand veganism. So we are going back to promoting what what the welfarist movement, like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill and John Rawls and all those utilitarians were promoting before veganism. So we're going back to that, but under the label of veganism, which is even worse. So the problem for the problem with these people are well, with these people is that they don't even realize that that's what they are doing, because they don't even care about the history of the movement, or the ideas that they were trying to communicate to the public, so that the public would understand what veganism is about. And they don't even care. They say, well, that's old. That's an old idea. And no, that's the idea. That's the core issue. And if I didn't believe that it was a good idea, well, I wouldn't call myself a vegan, and that's it. I would say, well, no, veganism is stupid. It's an idea that I don't agree with, blah blah blah, something like that, or is it is something very naive, because that's what they think, or that's what Tobias Leonard makes people believe. Like, oh, that's very naive. That the crazies, the crazies. He says like, oh, that's the crazies, and he tries to soften the whole issue and make it about food, and promoting, like some sort of foodie movement with very flexible principles, or no principles at all, just the the principle of the reduction of suffering, which is utilitarianism. And he acknowledged that he is a, a very influenced uh, person by Peter Singer. So Peter Singer's utilitarianism is what Tobias Leonard defends. But these influencers like David Rams, or you know, even other people like George Martin, who uh, was supposed to know the difference between all these different approaches, is kind of getting on board with because they are friends, and all these kind of community of influencers or people who have a bigger presence on social media is getting very dangerous, because they are canceling and blocking and deleting everybody who says, well, that's not veganism. So they are censoring veganism. Basically, what they are doing is censoring the real idea, the real concept, the original and official concept of veganism. The one that they spent 7 years from 1944 until 1951 defining, so that people would get on board with that idea. If they are not on board with that idea, then they shouldn't be identifying as vegans, and it's affecting the progress of the movement, and it's affecting the understanding of the concept. So whenever you tone down or water down, you water down a concept, then it's not the concept anymore, and it's very dangerous for the victims. If you say, well, the best that we can do is make sexist men that beat women, just reject the the hitting the face of women. That's the best that we can do. So let's promote that sexist men that beat up women, just don't hit them in the face. That is not feminism. If feminism was or had suffered the same kind of co-opting, that would be the talk. Like, oh, is it more effective to promote just the beatings of women, but not in the face? Is it more effective? Maybe they can get some some violent men to not hit women in the face, so that maybe that they can achieve that. Are they going to applaud people for promoting that? I don't think so. But since animals are the victims, and these people believe that they are virtuous for just not exploiting them for food or whatever, or for following some practices that are associated with veganism, then the problem is that they say, well, the rest of society is never going to be like me, so I'm going to promote what maybe the rest of society is going to accept, which is welfareism. A completely different approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the very issue is basically it doesn't really create vegans. It creates basically plant-based people who call themselves vegan, but they're not interested in justice. It just creates like a mass of people who seek benefits for themselves, like for their children, for the environment of their like next generation or whatnot. But they are not interested in justice, like even if they create more of them. But the basically to say that the quality of this veganism, if we can even call it veganism, because it's not, it's just not it, because these people are not interested in justice. They are not going to promote this as a clear ethical stance against all animal exploitation. They are just going to spread this like plant-based ideas like even more. But animals are still going to have this like commodity status, like regardless, even in the rhetorics of the so-called vegan movement. So what's the point? It just really creates this hyper comfortable, hyper comfortable plant-based community on the side
Yeah.
of the existing paradigm, basically.
Yeah,
That's what they are
sometimes-
doing. This existing like a plant-based community on the side of the existing exploitative supremacist paradigm. And that's it. It doesn't achieve vegans. Even if like,
Yeah.
for example, if we say like, even if we get less people to be actual vegans, these people are going to be more effective because they're going to push this damn paradigm against animal exploitation. Even if it's less, 5 actual vegans are going to like get a lot more into this society than 10 misinformed, confused plant-based dieters who think they're vegan. But so this is something that they also don't consider, I think, because they really just look at pure like numbers. That's it, just numbers, like mentality, all these like beliefs. They don't care. They don't care about that. But this is all that matters because this is the root of the issue.
Yeah, the problem is that they think that they are so advanced, so morally advanced, that other people will never go vegan, because they think that going vegan is just to follow a set of practices instead of changing.
Exactly.
Instead of changing our mindset, changing our perception of other animals, and since they believe that the other people will never be so morally virtuous as they are, they promote bullshit. They promote all these crappy reforms or single issue campaigns or whatever, and they delay the process even more. Because if we only oppose animal cruelty, then we can talk about maybe 2,000 campaigns, and another form of cruelty is going to be created with another, maybe other species, or maybe another form with the same species, whatever. Another form of cruelty is going to come up, and then it's like 2,000 different single issue campaigns, which could be all deal with, or which could be all be tackled by promoting veganism as soon as possible. If all people who identify as vegans were really promoting veganism, the change would be maybe possible. Like, if every vegan makes people question their relationship with animals and make people maybe go vegan, or adopt a vegan mindset, then in every year, if just every vegan would have that mentality, well, this year I have to change at least maybe 1 or 2 people. Maybe in 10 years, the exponential growth of veganism would be huge. But these people who go out to the streets, and some of them they keep promoting this anti-cruelty bullshit, are delaying the process, and they are misinforming other people, and they are getting people to think that, well, I'm not so cruel anymore, and I buy my eggs from the backyard, or from the lady who has some hens and she loves her hens, blah blah blah, and all that bullshit that keeps animal exploitation perpetually going back to different ways of exploiting animals. So
totally. It's just basically pretty much like trying to tackle the disease by treating its symptoms. It's very like symptomatic and very like short-sighted, because it's, again, even if they say, well, like cruelty is often like the symptom, but the underlying problem is not cruelty. The underlying problem is the very belief, this supremacist belief that we can use them at all. If they convey that would be like a lot clearer. But this is not what's happening. It's just promoting basically anti-cruelty position, basically, but not tackling the very belief, this like ideology of exploitation, like whatsoever.
Yeah.
So no justice movement ever achieved anything by treating like it's just symptoms, because these symptoms, they will continue to pop up anyway, as soon, because people are not changing the beliefs towards other animals. They're just thinking about cruelty and suffering and killings, and it's just endless, really. So we have to be really like responsible to convey what is the root of the problem and what is just common symptom, like, but not the crux, not the core problem that we're dealing with. That's very, very important. So and my next question is kind of related to like street outreach, but not just street outreach, but any kind of footage of animal exploitation. What do you think about it? Like, because some activists, they say that like it's just shock footage and it inherently leads to welfareism, inherently leads to like any kind of footage, inherently leads to welfareism. And like we shouldn't show it like whatsoever. What do you think about it?
No, I think that the problem relies on the message. Like any sort of showing the reality of any sort of injustice, I think it's very powerful for ending that injustice. Whenever we see racism going public in the news, people go out and people get very offended by it, and the conversations about it start to take over the social platforms and all that. Which is what we need, but not with cruelty. The problem is when people go out with very little information or very little training to talk about, or very little information and knowledge and very little training to talk about veganism, and they have no clue what veganism is, and they say, well, do you reject animal abuse? And everybody's like, yeah, you reject animal abuse. Well, these animals are being abused on cam. This hidden, like this undercover footage shows us that these animals are being abused, and you are part of this because you buy stuff from factory farms and blah blah blah, and that's where it all ends. The whole activism that they, like 99% of street activism that we see on social media, like on YouTube, that people record themselves, they film themselves in the streets, and what we see is, oh, you reject animal abuse? Yeah, well, watch this. This is animal abuse. Instead of fucking explaining what veganism is about and why we shouldn't feel entitled to use them as if they belong to us, as if they were resources, as if they were just properties. So, and lately, what happens is like, oh, now we have the new word in street activism. The new word is exploitation. So they talk about like half an hour about cruelty, and in that half an hour, they throw in like the word exploitation somewhere. It's it's abolitionist activism, it's vegan activism, and I hate the word abolitionist because it's like, oh, there are vegan abolitionists and there are vegan non-abolitionists. It's also misinformation. It's like, no, veganism is about the abolition of animal exploitation. If we don't talk about the abolition of animal exploitation, that is not veganism. and all these people are just patting themselves in the back after half an hour of talking like about what happens in a slaughterhouse. Yeah, so what? People reject cruelty, but they don't reject the use of animals as resources, or they don't reject the use of animals for personal benefit. They don't reject dogs being trained to sniff drugs in the airport, or they don't reject dogs being trained to deal with explosives, or they don't reject the use of horses in the police, or they don't reject riding horses. They don't reject a lot of animal exploitation. That's what they don't reject, and that's what we need to make them understand, that that's also unfair and unjustifiable. And all these people in the streets are just talking about, well, this is what happens in slaughterhouses, and watch all the blood. Yeah, but that might be some sort of catalyst, or some sort of so maybe the last straw for some people, like to say, well, maybe this subject is more serious and deserves more attention than I had thought before. But that's it. It's not about cruelty. If we only talk about cruelty, it's welfareism all over again. So these people who go out to the streets to promote welfareism and then pat themselves in the back because they have made a lot of people vegan are bullshit. They have never promoted veganism, and and they keep saying, well, veganism is about reducing suffering. They have no clue that what they are promoting is Peter Singer's utilitarianism. And it is even more of a problem when they don't even realize that that's what they are doing.
Yeah, totally. It's basically like, again, all over again, the societal belief about animals like remains unchanged. It remains being like this supremacist belief, like entitled belief, to which like enables animal exploitation in the first place. So the root just keeps like putting its symptoms like all over again, because the root is not treated by this movement. It's just
Exactly.
all over it's just stuck at welfareism, stuck at treatment. The discourse is stuck at treatment, which is a huge problem, because when the discourse is like stuck at treatment, the society will never even think of the total like rejection of the very belief system that they exist for us at all. So which is a very dangerous, because it just creates people against cruelty, but it doesn't drive the paradigm in the right direction. It just creates plant-based people against cruelty, and that's it.
Yeah.
And they tend to not like hold people accountable about exploitation, because they're not really vegan themselves. It's just endless.
And against suffering, which is a very, very harmful thought, because it's like feminists rejecting all kind of suffering that women might experience. So they end up promoting scenarios where, well, maybe if women disappear, then all suffering is gone. Maybe we should promote the disappearance of women. So it's like, it's like this very utopian and very dark idea which has nothing to do with veganism, which has nothing to do with the moral agency that humans have, just so that they stop using animals as if they belong to them. So uh, uh, promoting such um, such stupid or naive ideas that, well, maybe everybody is going to get on board with self with the extinction of sentient life, which is the logical consequence of just rejecting suffering. If you reject suffering, the logical consequence at the end of it all, the root of the problem is sentience. So let's get rid of fucking sentience, or
Yeah,
sentient life.
that's
You know?
yeah, that's the real consequences of utilitarianism. Like when people hyperfixate on this like end suffering, then they seek this like dangerous ideas to exterminate predators or like even
Yeah.
all sentient beings at all, including humans. But humans go last. They want to just exterminate like all of sentient life, and then maybe they will exterminate themselves. But first they have to like this idea just to, I don't know, napalm all the sentient creatures or like use some nukes. I don't know what they want to use, but they have this like daydreaming ideas of like exterminating all predators because they cause suffering. When the
Yeah.
discourse is talk about suffering, this is where it leads, because people
Yeah.
think about, well, this is the issue, suffering, and they don't
And
think about like just the right relationship between the human and the non-human animal. But this is not what they
yeah.
thinking. Their whole thinking is about just suffering, just stop suffering, like any suffering, even which is not related to like exploitation, but any suffering. So this is the dangerous entanglement from the utilitarianism that not many people in this moment really think about. And it's very dangerous.
Yeah,
So
that's what they promote, lab grown flesh, and they don't care if some victims, like, well, maybe some animals will suffer and will have to be experimented on, so that they can come up with this lab grown flesh. But in the utilitarian calculation, is going to be better because they naively also think that people who don't care about animals at all are going to suddenly change their pieces of corpses for the lab grown flesh. So out of the blue, like all of a sudden they are going to, why are they going to change their pieces of flesh? Well, but even if they did, they are still seeing, they are still perceiving animals as resources, which is the opposite of veganism. Veganism is the idea that humans should not perceive animals as resources. So all these people focused on suffering and suffering reduction, what they are doing is going against veganism, and they say, well, we give up. You know, it's not, animal emancipation will never come about. So what we can do is reduce suffering, and we can reduce suffering by exploiting some animals for these lab grown flesh, and or exploiting some well, or doing whatever, or exploiting some animals so that they can create some clones, maybe without a brain, so that people can keep uh, slaughtering clones of animals without a brain, with lobotomized animals or something like that. Uh, it's such a stupid um, approach, and it perpetuates exploitation even further. Like, oh, even if
Yeah,
that
it's
was true.
basically it's basically just creating this like new high tech kind of exploitation on this side of this existing traditional quote unquote exploitation. That's it. That's pretty much what it's really going to do, because people did not change the very view of animals. So why would
Yeah.
that be like an option for them in the first place? It's just
Yeah.
creating
And
another thing for like hyper conscious, like environmentally friendly vegetarians and whatnot, which are going to probably going to buy it. Uh, but other than that, it's just people don't care, and they don't care because they see animals as lesser, as things to use. And
yeah.
as long as they see them as things to use, as lesser, the problem will persist. It's very simple. So it's not,
Yeah.
it's just a defeatist kind of half-assed solution, but it's
Yeah.
really not. It's just basically this utopian idea. And people who promote this lab-grown flesh, they tend to not push vegan education. They just rely on this like high-tech kind of defeatist thingy, which is utilitarian idea. But they don't promote veganism in the first place. It's just defeatist, welfarist nonsense, essentially, which only perpetuates new type of exploitation,
And
and
yeah,
that's
and
all. That's all it's doing.
creates more ideas to keep exploiting animals in ways that they suffer less. Happy hands and happy sheep for wool and all that bullshit. So and everybody is going to profit from the seals of approval of the RSPCA or something like, oh, this is without cruelty, you know. Uh, Seal
Yeah,
the seal of approval of welfareist organizations who make a profit by selling the fucking seals, and everybody trying to mask exploitation and hide behind a non-cruel approach to animal exploitation, which is normally not true. But even if it was true, it's not justifiable to keep using them as if they belong to us. That is the whole fucking problem that nobody wants to address, because it's too difficult. People won't understand, and they think that they are just so high, so this morally superior kind of very advanced sort of beings that they are above everyone else. So they promote what they think that other people are going to accept. So, which is something that they don't do in any human cause at all. It's like, oh no, they're never going to stop being racist. So let's promote, I don't know, laws against, the cruel treatment of people, but not the change of mentality. That will never happen. So let's just promote laws against, I don't know, racist jokes in high school or whatever. It's a stupid approach to the problem.
yeah, absolutely. And it's clear that it never worked in any point in history, in any other moment. It's just absolutely clear, but it's for some reason it's not clear in the vegan movement, because they think it's somehow like a special movement. But it's the same situation, the same psychology, the same sociology, the same problem, the same issues, the same principles apply here. And
Yeah,
it's all the same. It's just that this movement is really like a very um, tiny, basically. But other than that, it's all the same situation. And I was going to ask you like the next question, which is comparing like dogs to pigs, or like comparing animals in general. For example, animals who are deemed like as loved pets or whatever, right? Comparing them to, for example, pigs or like other animals which are exploited for food. What do you think about this?
It's part of the same mentality. It's like, oh, people already reject cruelty in some parts of the world against dogs. So let's compare dogs to other animals that suffer even more obvious forms of abuse. So let's compare them, and people will get to the point where they reject also the cruelty against those animals, like hens, chickens, cows, fish, and all the most obvious animals exploited for food. But that is not the point of veganism. The point of veganism is to reject even the use of dogs for people with disabilities, because they raise dogs, they breed dogs, and they raise them to function as slaves for these people with disabilities. And nobody wants to talk about that because it's like controversial among the utilitarian community. It shouldn't be controversial at all among the vegans, among vegans. But somehow it's controversial because utilitarians only reject the obvious cruelty, not the use of animals. And they keep calling themselves vegans, which is what creates the whole confusion about veganism.
Yeah, it's like pretty much like in any other movement, this would be also like unacceptable and wouldn't work, because like if for example in times of, I was just thinking of an analogy now, in times of like black slavery, if people compared like, oh okay, but these black slaves are used in like cotton fields and they are beaten like the hell out of them, and this one is just kept as like a breeder slave. It was actually a thing, like a breeder slave, but still a slave, still a commodity, still a property status of this individual. And if people started to compare, instead of like promoting the whole principle of rejection any animal slavery, not animals, sorry, but as slavery of these humans, instead of promoting that, if they focused on comparing, on this comparison, oh, this slave is treated better, let's like focus on that, let's just, it's a very dangerous idea because it really degrades the very like victims of exploitation. It degrades, it's just like a comparison. This one has it worse, this one has it better, but they are both property, they are both human things in the human hands, which is the very like the very purpose of veganism, is to reject this, the whole thing, instead of just comparing the victims here. But that's very problematic. And another so next question about this is also kind of goes in hand with the previous points. The focus on like supply and demand chain in activism. What are the pitfalls and this like obsession with supply and demand? What do you think about it?
Well, some people rely on products way too much. They think that, well, if we have more vegan sausages or vegan, I don't know, nuggets or whatever, people are going vegan. No, they are not going to change their perception of animals just because they see something in the supermarket, or because they liked the vegan lasagna somehow, which is most of them suck, but people are not going to change their perception of animals just because they found a new product in the supermarket. that is not going to happen. What is going to happen is if if more people reject the exploitation of animals, more products are going to be on the shelves in the supermarkets. But people are thinking backwards. It's like, oh, if we create more products, more people are going vegan. No, they confuse going vegan with eating plants, and that's a huge mistake that they make, because I have never seen somebody say, well, I went vegan because this sausage roll is so great that I said, well, I'm going vegan now. The only thing that stopped me from viewing animals as resources was that I didn't have my delicious sausage roll. No, that doesn't happen at all. So people get so excited because, oh, there's a commercial of vegan food in the Super Bowl. So what? So what? People are not changing their minds about animals. So yeah, I think it's a huge mistake to rely on products and to see them as if they were the cause of people going vegan. Now it's because there are vegans, some companies are going to start offering more products, but that doesn't have anything to do with the change of mindset.
Yeah, totally agree. And we can see that, like, because let's say, for example, here in Ukraine, we don't really have that many of these fancy options, right? We don't really have them, but the amount of vegans here is, well, it's not significantly different to any Western country where they have like tons and tons and tons of these options. And are animals viewed anyhow any better in these Western countries? No, they are not. They are still considered property by like 99+% of humans. These products are just products, but they don't change the very belief system of humans. It's just another option on the side, and that's it. So
I can tell you and something that happened related to that, because AV was supporting the Impossible Burger. Did you know that? The Impossible Burger was like a patty that they created I think it was in the United States. I think it was, well, over there. And they created this patty, but they needed to test an ingredient, which was something like hemo. It tasted more real, more like the corpse of the animal. So to test that ingredient, they killed almost 200 rats in those tests, because normally what they do is to test the lethal levels of this product. So they have to intoxicate the rats until they die, so that they can determine with the level of toxicity that kills them. So they killed almost 200 rats, and AV had the great idea of supporting that, because it was just like any other product, and it was going to save millions of animals. That's what they said. Paul Bashir and Asal. The video is still on YouTube. You can look for Asal Alamdari and the Impossible Burger. So George Martin and I opposed that when I was in AV. And we said, no, we shouldn't promote that at all. It's like promoting tested beauty products. Why are we not promoting tested beauty products? Because we reject the exploitation of animals for any human purpose. And they went like, no, it's going to save millions of animals. The fact that they are releasing this Impossible Burger is going to save a lot of animals. And they had this utilitarian fucking mindset that it was going to happen, and it never happened. They released the Impossible Burger and nothing happened. And so that's how naive people are about this. Oh, if we have this lab-grown piece of muscle tissue, millions of animals are going to be saved. That is not true. We have seen that over and over and over. Like 20 years ago, we didn't have anything similar to animal foods and with the label vegan. And even less here in Colombia. We still don't have that much or that many products to choose from. In the supermarket, sometimes you go to a supermarket and you don't find anything vegan, or maybe some crackers, or some biscuits, or something which is accidentally without animal ingredients. But it's not like, oh, we have like in Germany, like they have like a whole fucking supermarket full of products that have no animal exploitation in them. We don't have that. And they think that because some people in Western countries have those products, then veganism is going to grow. And that is not true. That is not even true. If you go to maybe Switzerland or France, in every supermarket, they have some options. But it's not like, oh, there are many vegans in Switzerland and France because they have those options there. That is not true. So it's like, sometimes they say, well, we need to have options for everybody. But it's not like those products are changing people's mentality about animals. And AV did that, and they never apologized. And they never said, we fucked up, which is the accountability that they talk about so much and never recognize. So, well.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to, because I can admit it, like, for myself, because I was bought into this utilitarian thinking, utilitarian way of advocacy, if we can even call it advocacy. I've been in that camp like for like 6 years, pretty much. I've been in that camp, and I admit that, well, it was wrong. I was also a supporter of lab-grown flesh until I realized that the problem is not the cruelty or this like meat industry, as they say. The problem is the very belief that they exist for us at all. This supremacist belief, which is the very fucking root, which nobody wants to talk about. And I am the first to admit that I was wrong about that, and nothing wrong with absolutely nothing wrong with admitting that that we made a mistake. That's not going to kill you as an activist. It's just like the opposite. It goes to show that you're like an honest individual, like willing to admit mistakes, right? Willing to admit mistake that. And especially, it's nothing shameful, especially in this movement, which is so messed up. so messed up and so misinformed and so like pushed in different directions, including by external and co-option and attempts to dilute it, and this like influencers, everything. No issue with admitting that, well, there were mistakes. So anyway.
Yeah, and to be fair, George Martin did a great job opposing the video that was going to be released, that they ended up releasing anyway, because they asked us what we thought about that, and it was a huge mistake. But I think that George was maybe worried about the PR effect, the public relations effect that it would have on AV, which was very bad. Like all the vegans stopped supporting AV after that. The vegans, the people who really understand veganism said, "Oh, fuck that, fuck AV," because they knew, oh, this is utilitarian bullshit. And well, anyway, but George did a great job opposing that. I didn't do that much of a great job. And well, anyway, they already made their minds. They already had made their minds about it, and they asked us, which is something that they do very often. What do you think about this? But they already have their own idea, and they are going to do it anyway. So it didn't matter that we opposed, like George and I opposed the release of that video supporting the Impossible Burger. Well, anyway, the video is still there if you want to watch it and see how much they have fucked up.
And again, I mean, I don't quite understand like this thing, but in the movement where like everyone wants to be seen as like perfect activists. We're not perfect. We have fucked up many times. I have fucked up many times in my advocacy, and I own that. And that's just being human, really, and no problem.
Yeah, I had like these conspiracy poster on my Facebook for like 2 years. And in those 2 years, nobody said anything about that. Nobody even asked me, what is that? Because that was my hope, that maybe if they asked, I was going to tell them, well, animal exploitation is very bad for the environment, blah, 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 and all that bullshit. I used to believe that, oh, maybe we can get people to stop eating animal products if we promote this documentary, which was a mistake that I made, and I can own it. I won't hide behind like, oh, I have a new idea and I never promoted anything different. No, I have promoted very dangerous ideas or very counterproductive ideas. But we should all own our own mistakes and keep advancing, keep and learn from that, and be accountable for the misinformation that we have spread. But that's something that you don't see in any influencer. Any influencer that is censoring veganism is not willing to acknowledge that they have promoted very counterproductive ideas and that they have promoted utilitarianism until now. And now that they talk about exploitation, they think that they are saving face. No. We talked about exploitation. Didn't you see the whole clip? It's like, yeah, you talked about animal cruelty for like 25 minutes or 18 minutes. And somewhere in the conversation, you said, well, veganism is about opposing exploitation. And that's it. And and the rest of it was a welfarist conversation and a utilitarian calculation. Well, maybe if we do that, the crop deaths argument always comes up, and people go into utilitarian calculations, thinking that that's the vegan stance somehow. And
that's
they feel very
which is
proud.
why, like,
they feel very, very proud about their whole interaction, which is a very bad interaction. It's like misinformation all over again. But but we mentioned exploitation.
Yeah, which is why people really need to not just like memorize the definition. This is not the point. They have to understand the purpose of this movement and the root problem which it deals with. That's it. And this is enough. Like, they don't have to like repeat word after word the definition. It's just not about that. It's about internalizing the purpose of this movement. They can use different words, different sentences, whatever, but they have to convey the very principle, what we are dealing with. And that can be done with the different languages. It's not about that. It's about the conveying which is what is the injustice, and what kind of what we are dealing with. Basically, what we are dealing with is human supremacy, the belief that they exist for us, like whatsoever, that they are lesser. And when this is conveyed, and this is conveyed as like the opposite of what veganism opposes, then no problem. But they don't have to, but say, just mentioning the word exploitation or even the definition of veganism in the rest of the utilitarian talk about cruelty in agriculture is not going to change societal belief about animals. Like, they don't think about it. It's just not it.
And they don't understand the part where that definition is what propels our activism. It's like, okay, so they recite, they tell the definition of veganism, and then they support single issue campaigns, and they think like, okay, it's no, the problem is that people don't understand why the definition is so important. It's like, that's what we have to promote. That's what we have to promote every single time. Oh, no. Maybe in this, we're going to ban slaughterhouses in Denver, for example. So what? So what does it achieve? It achieves nothing. It achieves nothing. It achieves that people are going against veganism because they don't understand what's the purpose of it.
And that's so sorry for interrupting. This is actually like the next kind of like question, basically, about which I was going to ask, but you started to talk about it, so we can go a bit in depth about it. The like systemic change, like for example laws, versus belief change. Because like certain advocates, they argue that focusing on laws rather than educating non-vegans like one by one is more efficient because you can enforce kind of like law. What do you think about that?
That all these laws are against cruelty. So the mindset that the problem is cruelty is still there. It's like, for example, here in Colombia, they passed a law against bullfighting. And now, like 2 years, or maybe, I have no idea how long, maybe 1 year or 2 years after the law was passed, it has never been enforced because the law was like going to be implemented in 2026 or something. So it's not even active. The law, the law is not even being enforced right now, and they are already discussing how to reverse it, because most people who support bullfighting have a lot of influence, and politicians, and they have a lot of money, and they are going to fight to reverse it. So what good is to change or to pass a law, which anyways, that law doesn't save any bull at all. Bulls are going to be slaughtered for meat. Those same bulls are sold as meat as soon as they, even the bulls that are killed in the arenas are sold as meat. So passing a law against bullfighting is not going to save the bulls. And these people are just happy, and they cry, and all these welfarists are crying like, oh, they passed a law, and they celebrate, and they hug each other, and no bull is getting saved by that. And it's so unreal. It's so like how unconscious these people are. Like, so maybe that the next president here is going to be a right wing, most likely, because this one was left wing, and people are disappointed as fuck. So the right wing is the one supporting bullfighting here in Colombia. So maybe bullfighting is going to come back, and without a change of mindset among the people who support or who go to those events, those events are going to keep coming back, maybe. Or anyways, if they don't come back, bulls are going to keep being slaughtered for meat and leather and whatever. So what is the point? What is the point? It's like 30 years of anti-bullfighting campaigns to get to this point where people are still seeing bulls are as resources for food and clothes. So instead of promoting, if they had begun 30 years ago promoting veganism, we would have a more vegans in society right now here in this country. But they didn't do that. They went with the fucking new welfarist idea that, well, maybe if we tackle this problem first, people will going to eventually understand that bulls are not property or should not be viewed as property, which hasn't happened at all. And instead of promoting veganism, they go with the low hanging fruit, because they think that's the strategy. Now, all these strategies are not vegan. Whenever they talk about strategy, it's not vegan. It's a welfarist strategy. Tobias Leonard is called a vegan strategist. He's a strategist for selling books, but he's not vegan. So
yeah, and it goes to show about the honesty of these people, because when Tobias Leonard was confronted, for example, recently, like on Substack, in his comments, when he was confronted about his damn strategy, he just blocked people. He refuses to engage. He refuses to engage with the very okay, Tobias, let's discuss this. Let's discuss this problem and this problem. He refuses to do that. Why so? If you are so confident that this is the strategy to the vegan world, not to semi-vegetarian, plant-based-ish world, if you are so confident in your strategy as if that's veganism, then let's discuss that. But he does not do that. He only pops up in interviews with people who already agree with him. That's it.
Yeah.
He does not, nobody challenges this. He refuses to even be challenged in the comment section or debates or interviews. whatever, he refuses to do that. And he blocks people when they genuinely point out the very flaws that, well, this doesn't change the belief system of humans. So if it doesn't
Yeah.
change the belief system of humans, it doesn't change the paradigm. It creates just plant-based-ish people, maybe, who think they're vegan, who may
Yeah.
become ex-vegan in the next year or something. And
Yeah. He deleted
and
my
that's
comments.
a very huge problem, is that they are dishonest.
Yeah, he deleted my comments in the Substack thing. And I was like, oh, I wasn't even being aggressive or vulgar or whatever. I just said, well, that is not veganism. That might help you sell more books, but that is not veganism. And he deleted the comment. And I think that I explained that veganism was the rejection of animals and the idea that humans have no right to exploit animals. So what they are doing is censoring veganism. The very idea of veganism is
pretty much
is something that they strive to censor. And these David Rams, having thousands of followers and promoting this guy is such a disservice to animals. It's incredible. It's amazing how blind or how greedy. I have no idea, or both. How greedy. If of course, if you are going to promote the softer approach, you are going to have more followers. If you soften, if you soften the approach, you are going to have more followers. The biggest accounts on Instagram with the hashtag vegan are recipe accounts. There is this girl that has been suffering from some sort of illness for a few months, and she had like 700,000 followers on Instagram or something. And whenever she talks about veganism, she says something very incorrect. And when you correct her, then you are the bad guy. You are the aggressive vegan. And to be honest, I think that she's going to release soon a video saying, "I'm no longer vegan. I tried, but my illness and my sickness or whatever, my health issues made me go back to exploit animals, blah blah blah, or whatever." The typical.
That's they're very predictable,
Expand-based.
very like, there are signs to tell like a potential so-called ex-vegan, because first they only talk about eating animals, like not eating animals, as if that's veganism. So that's a huge issue, is that they reinforce the societal belief that this is about a diet. This is just we are trying to force them a diet, instead of like educating them about the ethics, right? The ethic of against animal exploitation. So this is a very dangerous, because these people have vegan in their names, but they promote something like completely opposite of it. They just promote like some plant-based-ish kind of ideas against environmental damage or whatever.
They are the product of these hero outreachers, because they think, well, I'm going to reduce suffering by adopting a plant-based diet. That's all they think, and they have been thinking that for years. So whenever they come back to eating animal products, because that's what they all do, is because they never rejected the idea of animals as resources. So all these hero outreachers are creating a lot of ex-vegans with a lot of followers who make who make seem veganism as an impossibility. It's like, oh, but did you see the vegan girl who, after 7 years of veganism, got sick and blah blah blah? But it's not because they get sick. It's because they don't even think of getting some blood test or whatever. But they never rejected the property status of animals. They never rejected the idea that other animals are here for them to use. So they go back to use them, and sometimes they realize, well, maybe I'm not reducing suffering that much because of crop deaths or whatever, and they go back to consuming animal products. But it's because they never understood that veganism is not a diet, and that veganism is not about reducing suffering. And people like, Jamie Logan constantly repeating, well, veganism is about reducing suffering. And then you hear Early Ned, and then you tell Jamie Logan, no, that is not veganism. And she says, well, Early Ned says that. And you're like, yeah, Early Ned has been misinforming people for a long time. And she's like, well, but who are you? It's like a battle of people with followers against people with knowledge. It's an uphill battle, because they think that because they have more followers, then they are right, and they have been heroes for the animals, and they have created a lot of ex-vegans and a lot of people thinking that veganism is a diet, and it's an impossible diet to follow, which is even worse. But
Yeah, and it's a huge issue, because the amount of followers is like equated to basically to the level of knowledge in this movement, in psychology, in sociology, like all of these subjects, like which are related, very much related to this justice movement. It's equated to the level of knowledge, which is a huge problem, because, well, we have to understand that non-vegan like influencers have even more followers. Are they right? Are they in the right? Suddenly, it's this appeal to popularity. It's just ad populum. It's a very popular kind of logic, basically fallacy. This is not something that we should go about. We should consider like the essence of the issue we are discussing. But yeah, and my next question was about what's your take on promoting these like plant-based sort of celebrities as if they're vegan, which is like this is a very popular thing to do. I see this in Ukrainian organization which calls itself vegan. I see this like in international space, like everywhere.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I made the mistake of doing that. I promoted Joaquin Phoenix, and I promoted this guy that played Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones. He played that character. I forgot the name, but the guy who played who used to say that he was vegan, and now recently he said, well, now I'm going back to eating meat. And I made a mistake of promoting them, thinking that maybe some people would get interested in researching some more about the veganism. But Joaquin Phoenix is not a vegan. He rides horses. He says that, well, if my kids want to exploit animals, I won't say anything about it. They are free to do whatever. So he's not someone who really thinks that humans should live without exploiting animals. And this other guy said, well, everything he said was about cruelty. So all these bad activism is creating all these ex-vegan celebrities, well, ex-vegan, ex-plant-based celebrities who misinform even further. Like, and at this point, I have no clue which celebrity is vegan, because I have seen none of them as vegan. Moby is a fucking welfarist. Moby says, well, my family has some bees, but they treat them well, and I'm not going to say anything about them exploiting bees, because that would be extremist. You know, a guy who has like the biggest tattoos about animal rights that I have ever seen, and they have no clue what veganism is. And this is the problem with animal rights. Which rights? The rights of bees to be exploited by the family of these supposedly great vegan for 30 something year, 40 years or 30 something years. It's people who never understood what veganism is about. He released a documentary about music and veganism within music, and he mixed the vegetarians with the vegans, and the vegans were not really vegans, were people who with a plant-based diet because they were against the system or something like that, and all these hardcore metal community of people against the system, and those are not vegans. There are people who don't reject the exploitation of animals because they reject the use of sentient individuals as property, but because they reject the system behind that. So it's it's a disaster of a documentary, and he misinforms massively, and all these celebrities have always disappointed me. Always, it's such a bad idea to promote them at this point.
And like, but yeah, whenever there is a next celebrity who is so-called ex-vegan, this is never a lesson for this plant-based utilitarian movement. It's
No,
never a
they
lesson.
keep,
Well,
yeah, they
it's
keep
like
repeating the same.
all over again. This Miley Cyrus, ex-vegan.
Yeah.
Okay, people used to promote her as a vegan. Or like any one of them, or this Lewis Hamilton who rides camels in the like in Africa or wherever he travels. So people keep promoting him as vegan, even though he clearly does not understand it, and he doesn't promote the vegan stance because he rides camels and he doesn't understand it as an injustice.
Lenny Kravitz also. Lenny Kravitz has been a vegan for 30 years, and he goes out with a fur coat to a fucking award ceremony. So he has been a vegan for 30 years. Really? When? All these plant-based, the plant-based movement is a misinformation industry, I would say. They have a lot of money put into that. Like, the PBS News is something. I think that some guys from the United Arab Emirates are putting money into it because some prince from the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. Fuck, I get confused. The UAE has some, very prominent plant-based people, and they are putting money into that, and that doesn't help at all. It's counterproductive, and I think some animal exploiters are aware of that, and they promote all this misinformation against veganism. So there's a lot of money to be made in plant-based advocacy. So Tobias Lehner is invited to Luxembourg every fucking single year to talk about animal rights. It's the International Animal Rights Conference, and Tobias Lehner is like the first one to be on a plane to Luxembourg to 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 promote a flexitarian, unprincipled bullshit that is not veganism or animal rights at all.
Yeah, yeah, that's a lot of danger in that. Totally. Yeah, so so we have gone through all of the questions that I was going to ask you, and now I think we have to go to like someone in the chat asked question. I have to see. I think viewers question. Anna just posted. People were asking, is street activism overrated? What do you think about this?
No, I think very much, very much. People are seen as heroes for talking to strangers. To me, it's easier to talk to a stranger than it is to talk to friends and family, because you are going to have to deal with them the next day, and the day after that. So, uh, uh, mm, uh, you know, you, I think that people are seen as heroes because they dare to talk to strangers, and to me, it's the easiest form of talking about a subject which is very superficial, because it's like people are passing by. There are a lot of noise. Is it's never very deep. The conversation is never very deep, and and all of them, or most of them, are only about rejecting suffering, or rejecting causes of suffering to animals, or rejecting cruelty or abuse, which they try to mask as exploitation. They try to change the meaning of exploitation to feed their narrative, the narrative that they have used for years. Like, oh, are you against animal abuse? Well, this is abuse. So why are you not vegan? And it's always like people, what they understand when they talk to these people is like, oh, so if I reject abuse, I have to go plant-based. That's what people understand, and they leave the conversation. Oh yeah, I'm going vegan, and they shake hands. And what these people have in their minds is, I have to adopt a plant-based diet because cruelty to animals is wrong. So they don't understand
Yeah,
veganism at all, at all. And we have all these people, pushing their talking, talking loud and standing very tall and with their noses up, and saying, "Well, do you even do vegan street outreach? Do you even go out to the streets?" Yeah, I have done that, and to be honest, the conversations are very superficial. And when you try to explain veganism to people, i- i- some people might get the idea, but it's not as as deep as you could uh, do with the people that you know. And if we if some people just do activism the day that they have to go out, and they remain quiet. I saw a lot of that within the chapter that we had. Like, a lot of these people who showed up to the cubes never said a word in their social media. So they wanted to keep their family and friends protected, from being accountable for animal exploitation. So yeah, they held people accountable in the streets, or maybe they were the ones holding the computers or the signs, or you know what we do, well, what we did in AV. But these people never try to do that with their family or friends, which is that's the complicated part, because you have to really talk about very uncomfortable things that they are doing, very wrong things that they are doing to animals, and that those things are not justifiable. So that's more difficult than talking to a stranger about abuse. And if they reject animal abuse, and if they are going to stop consuming animal products because they are against animal abuse, which is what 99% of the conversations that you see of these street activists are about.
I also think it's pretty overrated because, well, I have done a lot of street activism with the AV and also another organization, but and yeah, I think it is overrated because people tend to be dishonest, and yeah, you're talking to a complete stranger. Like, I don't think it's like it's a bad activism or anything inherently, but
No.
it is overrated. It is overrated.
Yeah,
That's
if
it.
you
Because
if you send the right
because
message,
whoever,
it might have some sort of effect. Some, but at best, what normally happens when you send the right message, at best, is that people have leave the conversation with a planted seed of curiosity about the subject. Like, oh, I have to
yeah,
research more about this because it's kind of important. I feel like this is not as trivial as maybe I have thought before, or something like that, which is something that the images help to detrivialize. Like, that it's not so trivial as people imagine. Like, when they see the reality, is like, oh, yeah, this is very uncomfortable to watch. Uh, but uh, uh, but the problem is when they don't reject, for example, the use of animal materials that were not obtained with cruel methods. So, or the exploitation that they don't perceive as cruel. So, if you send the right message, it could lead to people trying to question and to go into this introspective, introspective. I don't want to say journey, but it's like this introspective stage where they can
yeah.
you know get to a vegan conclusion on their own, and then they have no justification anymore, and then they say, well, I'm going to be vegan, and I'm going to reject this because I have no justification for doing, or for even thinking of animals as as I used to.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it can be a great tool, like if used responsibly, absolutely. Um, and the next question from someone asked here, does it seem to you that AV is a gigantic disinformation machine supported by the majority of activists, and that no one has any intention of stopping or correcting it?
Yeah, I think so. I still think so, because whenever uh, the leaders of the organization show in their social media the interactions that misinform, after just saying the right thing. Like they can repeat now the right definition of veganism. They can repeat it and then show in their social media interactions that are just about cruelty, for example. And it's like, oh, well, you're still misinforming, and they are like, oh, but yeah, but they are not very uh, seasoned. They are not very experienced. So we have to give them a chance. And I'm like, a chance to what? To misinform? Is so they are rewarding efforts. Yeah, if I go out and spend 4 hours of my weekend talking to people in the streets about a subject that I don't understand, I'm going to be rewarded. And if I'm friends with the leaders of AV, well, I'm going to be rewarded, because I'm showing my efforts. And they are not thinking about the damage that all the misinformation is doing. And they are not willing to admit that they have misinformed for years. And I was part of that. So I can admit to that. I was part of that misinformation. But I tried. I really tried to send the right message. And but yeah, if they are not willing to admit that they have been spreading misinformation a lot more than information, then I don't trust any good intentions. I cannot be so naive as to trust the good intentions behind people who are not willing to admit that what they have done is very serious, and some people are dealing with that, and they are not those people who are dealing with that. They are not willing to do it. They know that it's not good for the business. It's not good for AV if they start holding people accountable for misinformation, which is like 99% of the so-called vegan movement, which is not a vegan movement.
Yeah, it's only like the last year when AV started to basically, well, to focus on the root issue, like, but it's just basically something that's kind of like advised, basically.
Yeah.
To talk about exploitation or like the belief system, but the reality is that it really depends on what chapter we are talking about or a particular activist, because many are still just talk about, for example, I've heard in Poland there is literally zero AV chapter which conveys veganism, and I think it's similar in any other country, because well, it depends. It's really dependent on a particular activist, a particular organizer, and a particular chapter. Because if they all are talking about, they are too used to talk about utilitarian, all these like calculations, reduction of suffering. So they really didn't care that Paul released a completely different kind of workshop. It's just went right above their head, really. I don't see this being kind of like enforced and demanded from activists to talk something that Paul advised them to do. It's like I don't understand. So they definitely have improved. I can admit that. Well, they have improved, but it's really dependent on an activist, and it's still as a whole, as a totality, it's still not quite it, because many people still talk about all these like rights violations, about reduction of suffering, or just talk about abuse in the industry, but never convey the vegan stance itself, really. So there is a lot of that, unfortunately, still. And it's unfortunate, because there is step in like you said, in the right direction, but still not quite it. Still, like the closest to the vegan education as there is, really, because the other organizations are like a whole lot worse. Let's be frank, a whole lot worse. It's just
we're
total
talking
mess,
about
complete.
the best of the worst.
Yeah, but AV is like a whole lot closer. They have definitely improved over the years, but still there is really not much. I mean, yeah, it's a huge organization of the huge amount of chapters. So
Listen, well, when they are not willing to admit that people correct them in their social media, and they condone the blocking and the deleting of comments and the canceling, how can you trust? How can you trust an organization that does that? If they are also censoring the vegan message, how can you trust them? So this is a problem. Whenever they don't have any argument to defend the fact that they are not promoting veganism, in the clip that they showed, it's like, oh, but you didn't see the whole 45 minutes conversation. It's just a small clip. And you say, well, yeah, it's a small clip that some non-vegans watch, and they get the wrong idea from the small clip. So if you are going to choose a clip, it has to be an informative clip, not a misinformative clip. And what they do is like, oh, these people are too annoying. Let's block them. Let's censor the vegan message.
Yeah, that's a very like unfortunate phenomenon in all of the vegan movements. Some are better at like handling feedback, but generally people are just they just block. They block like don't care, they didn't see, like just forget about it. That's all. So yeah, we are kind of running low on time because we are actually way overdue. But I want to ask you the questions, which are also the last two questions in the chat, just to address them, to answer. What do you think of those who say that what veganism opposes is use without consent and not all use?
That they are promoting Peter Singer's utilitarianism, and they some of them have no clue that that's not veganism. And even I have talked to some people in Germany about that, and they get so mad, and because I say, well, you're not promoting veganism. If you say that the use of animals with consent is acceptable, and that it is not exploitation, then you're falling into Peter Singer's utilitarianism. And they keep doing cubes every fucking single week, and they say that. And fortunately, I understand German, so I can see that they are doing that. And but AV is not willing to address that. So how can you trust? This is the best organization out there. The rest of the biggest organizations are just welfare, either welfarist or intersectional, or both, like SAFE, for example. But the rest of the organizations, like We the Free, is a focus of misinformation. They don't even care. It's like, you do whatever. We are going to send you the equipment, and you do whatever you think that is going to help animals. We the Free. We are free to misinform. So so we are talking about the best organization, and they are not willing to address the misinformation of the chapters, maybe because they have been doing that for years and they have put so much effort into that, but they are not willing to address it. they are not going to get into, hey, you have to correct this message. That is not the vegan message or whatever. They are not willing to get into trouble with the activists, especially the ones who are putting the material out there on YouTube constantly. So if you have like 200 videos about abuse, cruelty, and use with consent, then it's great because you have some videos on social media, you have some content supporting AV, and with if you have the merch, even better. Yes, on top of you buying the overpriced merch of AV, now you have content, and you're using the merch, and there's a lot of content on YouTube, and that makes AV look like a great organization, is global, and they are speaking a different language to English, and it's so they are not willing to hold activists accountable, which is my problem with. They love to repeat, you have to hold people accountable, you have to do it. Well, what about doing that to the very activists with the merch of AV? They're not going to do that. I would be very surprised if they address this use with consent bullshit, which is Singer's idea, which is how Singer condones bestiality. Because if the animal gives consent, then what is the problem? That's Singer's idea. You can watch it.
Yeah, that's the very issue is that, well, animals, they cannot give informed consent like in the first place, so it's like irrelevant to the conversation like at all, because even if it seems like that the animals gives consent, it's just, well, they cannot understand the consequences. They are basically like people with mental disability. They don't understand what's happening. So it's just the consent is a dangerous loophole to use for anyone who wants to exploit animals, really, because they say, well, like Vegan Gaines said, well, I consent train my horse so I can ride them. It's a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, and whoever dares to criticize him, he calls them idiots. Oh, these people are idiots because they don't understand trained consent. We can train animals to give consent. Fuck. The utilitarian gains. He should not call himself vegan anymore, and it's a huge problem whenever these people don't.
Yeah, I cannot hear. Maybe it's just on my end. Yeah, now I think the sound is back.
Now, do you hear me?
Yeah. Now it seems to work. Yes.
I'm using the mic on the computer. Well, so these people talking about consent reject veganism. They are rejecting the notion that no animal use should be condoned, like no animal exploitation. But the problem is that they kind of twist the definition of exploitation so that it fits their utilitarian views. So they make it about, well, if the animal wants, the animal wants to be ridden. The animal wants some human on top of him. No, that is not
that's
maybe what the animal wants is not to be enclosed in a barn or something. But the animal wants to trade having some stupid human on his back because he can move around. So, but even if that wasn't the case, the problem relies on the mentality of the person on top of the animal. The person that thinks, well, this animal is going to be good for transporting me around, for moving me around on his back. That is the whole problem. It doesn't even have to do with the mentality of the animal, because they cannot give informed consent, but it has to do with the mentality of the human using the animal and seeing the animal as a means to an end. In this case, transportation means a means of transportation. Sorry. So, but these people promoting the idea that, well, maybe if we can kind of see some sign of the animal not being uncomfortable, maybe we can engage in whatever exploitative conduct, because the animal is not going to suffer. That is the whole point of utilitarianism, not of veganism. The point of veganism is to reject the notion that they are here for us to make use of them, and a selfish use of them. Because some people get into what if we take a picture of an animal? No, that is not exploitation. Unless you put the animal in some situation to take the picture. Capturing light is not animal exploitation. The problem is when you see those animals as means to an end. You see them as commodities. But some people want to split hairs about every single word whenever the word doesn't fit the utilitarian mindset that they have been promoting as veganism.
Totally. I agree. I mean, it just creates a lot of dangerous loopholes which can condone just pretty much anything if we go by this logic. Just consent, and it's just not something that justice movements are relying on, because that's dangerous logic.
And some movements don't rely on that because humans can give informed consent.
Exactly, and that's the difference, because humans understand the difference.
Because they compare that to sometimes people like to be used in some sexual scenario. Well, that is not the same thing, because people can give informed consent, unless you are talking about a very young human, and not very a young human, which is not giving consent to be sexualized, but or even giving consent to be sexualized, But if it's an underage person, it's illegal for a reason, because they cannot give informed consent, and that's what these people are not understanding. So
okay, we are running. We are like way past the time that we were going to talk to, but last question. Last question about what is the best and most reliable source for education about veganism?
The historical texts of veganism up until 1955, I would say. All the information that they wanted to put out there about the original concept of veganism, that's what people should be reading and trying to analyze epistemologically. Like, okay, what do these guys wanted to what did this guy wanted to say, or what did this guy want to say, what did they wanted to say, what was the message that they were trying to convey at that time? Because it's and we have to also put some words into context, because they were just living they were just getting out of the Second World War, and some concepts sound very hippish, but in the context of Second World War just ending, it doesn't sound very hippish anymore. It's like the hippies were not there. We're not even there. We're not even the hippie movement wasn't even born at that time. So some concepts with the words compassion and love, maybe they wouldn't say that right now, because they might be misconstrued. But at that time, they made some sort of sense because of the context of the war and all that.
I mean, I agree. I mean, it's very important to use our own like critical thought, like read that and just apply this in a modern time and with a modern language or whatnot. But it's just to understand the basic principle. It's not to just like repeat thoughtlessly, like word by word. It's to understand what they were trying to convey, like you say, at that time. And it was, I mean, the language evolved, everything evolved, obviously, and like understanding of psychology, but we can just basically analyze what they were trying to convey. But that's all. To just understand what was meant.
The core idea is still valid, and is still what people should promote as veganism. And if you have a better idea, then don't call it veganism. And we can discuss, maybe your idea is better. Okay, what is the idea? But I doubt it. Normally the ideas are, maybe we should get into the oceans and try to stop some shark from attacking a seal. But they never talk about the seal eating fish. So they never say, maybe we should stop the seal from eating fish. All these ideas are so stupid, and they have nothing to do with veganism, which is about the moral agency of humans being implemented or being put into practice. We are the ones with the moral agency with enough moral agency and understanding to reject the use of other animals. It's not a movement to make crocodiles vegetarian or to extinguish them. It's not a movement about that. It is a movement about humans making moral progress and stopping their wrong relationship with other animals.
Yeah, that's a great final word, I would say. Yeah. So I think it's I think it's time to wrap this up, because there is a lot to talk about this. There is just so many topics to discuss. Like we already like extended this pretty much because we were going to go a little shorter, but so anyway, thank you, David, so much for coming in. That was really informative, like, and a pleasure to discuss things with you. I mean, these are uncomfortable conversations to have in the moment, but we have to
Nobody is
to
going to do it. Everybody is afraid of being cancelled or whatever.
Yeah, I
by
mean, we
by
have
the
to
cool kids.
we have to be able to like give each other feedback and to be able to engage in an honest discourse about these issues, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope all the other people who watched this found it valuable. And just a quick reminder that this conversation was recorded and it will be uploaded on YouTube channel. Also, for those who didn't have the opportunity to tune in tonight or wants to like rewatch it or share with others, it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and I think we can send the file on to David so he can upload it on his YouTube also. It will be also with the Ukrainian voiceover a bit later when we process it. So so thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you for your attention and for your dedication to the cause.
Thank
bye.
you, Sergey. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you everyone who paid attention.